Good morning, welcome in. Happy Tuesday. How's everybody today? Welcome in, welcome in. Good morning, Story of Home. How are you today? Hi, Anne. How are you? Annette. Joanne is here. Maria is here. Zach's mom is here. So, what does everyone have going on today? What do you need to talk about? So, I think we've talked about shipping ad nauseum. So, unless you have some specific questions about that, I'm not going to talk shipping today. Um, and I will say that for me, it has been a pretty simple transition. It's pretty cut and dry compared to what it was before. And either, you just figured out which way was going to work for you. And I've tried two different ways and felt like it was more important to stick with reduced shipping than charge the higher price just because that, you know, I mean, people know that there's a lower shipping cost and they're going to want it. So that's kind of where I landed. And it seems to be okay. I mean, I'm paying a little bit more out of pocket for shipping than I was, but we'll see. And the flat rate goes away in November anyway, so I kind of don't want to base my business model on that. So that's kind of where I landed. How is everybody doing? What's going on? What are your concerns or problems? Read the show notes. If you have questions, put them in chat. And yeah, so most parts of the country either have already started school or kids are going back to school within a week. Um, Lake Dad, I do have a shipping question. If the system calculates over 5 pounds with max shipping when the actual weight is under, why do I not get a credit back? Well, because when you sold it, the system calculated it at over. And so that's what Knott's policy is, whatever it calculates when you sell it. So if you don't want it to go over 5 pounds, you need to do something in your settings of how you sell it so it won't go over 5 pounds. So, you'll either have to use a custom profile that maxes it out automatically by number of items, or you'll need to make sure your weights are dead on, or don't, and stop selling when you feel like people have hit close to the max, or, something, because whatever you sell it at, that's the only thing the system can go by is what you put in there as the weight for the items. And so their accumulated items, if it went over 5 pounds, that's because you put it in there at those weights and it accumulated to that point. Even though on the back end you weighed it and it wasn't over, the system can't know that, right? So change your weights a little bit lower, or force it by number of items to max out at 5 pounds if that, if you don't want them to go over 5 pounds. Yeah. Yeah, it does seem dumb, but that's how they've chosen to do it. um and it kind of makes sense to me, just because, just like you can't predict what people are going to buy, they can't predict that either. And so you have to just guess. It's a guessing game, because unlike other platforms where you have specific listings and people just go buy those listings, it's much more predictable because they only buy one or two items. Is it better to go under, because if it's over, you can just pay the difference after? Yes, I would say that's true. Especially if you're staying in the same weight class. So here's think of it this way. Everything from 1 to 5 pounds is that 775 ground advantage if you're using ground advantage, right? So go a little bit under because you can, as long as you're adjusting it within that 1 to 5 pounds, there's no difference, there's no extra charge. So it would be better to stay under 5 pounds than have to go from like, well, 5 pounds is 80 ounces. Let's say that it ended up when you went to ship it, all combined, it says it's, 69 ounces. And oops, you weigh it and it's 74. Oh, well, it's 74. You make the change. It's still under 5 pounds. No extra charge for anybody. It stays in that weight class. And then on the scenario where it does go over the 5 pounds and you do have to add that on there, then you pay that extra on the back end instead of the front end. Either way, because you're going to pay it whether you pay it on the front end or the back end if it's over 5 pounds. Okay. You had one that was 82 ounces when sold, 78 when weighed. Yeah, I've had a couple like that too. It sucks. Yeah, because then you ended up paying, a little bit extra for that. But that's why I'm doing, um, I'm trying to really closely watch the weights and do a little bit, just a little bit less. I mean, you still have to account for the person who buys one item and you have to ship it. And you do also get dinged in those under a pound ones if you're going from one of the weight classes to the next weight class. So that kind of sucks too, but it's a smaller charge. So one seller, I didn't know that they were flat rate all the way, whether you put 1 or 10. I paid $12.99 for a $7 item. Yeah. And some sellers are doing that now. They've just changed to where everything's a pound and they have it maxed out at 5. So they have it maxed out at 5 pounds, and then you have to pay for another, 12.99 package if you want to buy more than the 5 items. How often do people buy over 5 pounds? Well, in my shows and fabric shows since the change, um, the most I've had is 3 people that bought more than 5 pounds in any given show. But I'm not like some of the biggest, like City Stash Fabric. But that here's the thing with even with like someone like City Stash who's it's I'm sure spam. So all right, are we okay as sound on? Um, anyway, so because they have a huge audience, you actually most people don't buy very many items because the competition is fierce. So I would say that the medium size sellers and sometimes the smaller sellers are actually having that problem more than the bigger sellers because the bigger sellers sell more in any given show, but it's harder for one person to buy more than 5 pounds because there's a lot of competition of people buying if they're doing it auction style. Now, I think though that one of the things that I personally have done and that I think a lot of you should do is get your buy it now loaded, um, because people are liking buying things out of buy it now and not having to bid against other people and just be able to put them in there for a reasonable price, good stuff, and people will buy it. So, because you're again, the marketplace is, expanding on Whatnot now because we have so many people discovering Whatnot, and the natural shopping way for people to shop online is to go into and search for an item that they want. And more sellers are listing specific items, and that helps build our marketplace. So, Flamingo says, I sell bows and kids' clothes, but I want to destash some fabric, but nervous because the bows weigh less than fabric. Yeah. Um, you know, again, you can limit what you sell because that's a strategy. A strategy is just limit how much you sell and watch, or just watch. And if someone starts getting too big of a pile, you know, cut it short because you don't want to have to pay too much of their shipping. I mean, it seems silly, but it's a strategy. Or you just price your items in such a way that you know that it's going to be worth it if you do have to pay some of their shipping. Because it is a good problem to have someone buying a lot, as long as the way you've priced it um, works for your profitability. So don't expect to have, $1, $2 start pricing and not have people want to load up. They're going to want to load up, especially if there's not a lot of competition. So, price your items at what you can afford to sell them at, especially considering, if they buy a lot and you have to pay some of their shipping cost. Um, a couple of the sellers are doing the flat rate at $12.99, and honestly, I don't think it has affected their sales all that much. I mean, everybody knows prices went up. I have been selling on Whatnot for going almost 4 years. So, in fact, next month is my 4-year mark. Our raid trains on certain days and seller support on certain days. Well, raid trains can be whenever. There's raid trains going on almost constantly. It just depends on when someone organizes them. Seller support is also going on constantly. I do mine every Tuesday. But if you look in the show notes, the very first starred bullet in my show notes is the Whatnot seller account, which is the official Whatnot community support account. Let me show that to you. Um, they are doing new content now where they are, one second, where they are doing new content for new sellers, and they have shows almost every day. Let me just switch over and show you on the big screen. And I watched a couple of them, and I think they're doing a fabulous job of really helping people learn the basics of how to sell on Whatnot. So this is the account. So you go to the For You page and type in Whatnot Sellers. See, just like that, Whatnot Sellers. And here's their content. Tomorrow, they're going to be interviewing a seller named Pool Wax, um, a card seller. And then tomorrow, also on the same day at 5 p.m., 3 keys to your first 30 days. And then look, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, all that same content. So it's all content for new sellers. And you're allowed to ask questions in chat, and they do answer some of the questions and help new sellers get started. So if you're new and you haven't been in, please, into this account, please go bookmark these shows and go watch these shows, because they give you lots of tips to get started, allow you to answer or ask and answer questions, and they also interview successful sellers, which gives you a lot of tips about how to be a good seller on Whatnot. Hey, Field Trip Quilting in the house. How are you? Welcome in. So yeah, make sure you go and And again, that's the first starred bullet in the show notes. Whatnot sellers. It's a seller focused community team that are Whatnot employees who do these shows, and the content is good. It's officially Whatnot. You're not going to get them telling you all kinds of rumors or crap that's not true, and it's going to be, exactly what Whatnot is doing. So, seller support that is hosted by, someone who's not, is just their opinion or their experience or their advice. And you can get a lot of good tips and a lot of good information, and maybe a little bit more personalized information, like when you come in here, especially if you sell in the same category as the person hosting the seller chat. But for official information about what's actually happening on the platform, go there, because you're going to get, you know, exactly what Whatnot is releasing as far as information goes. Um, stay away from seller chats where they make you pay to play. Their interest is not your best interest at heart. um, they're just putting a sign out to try and get some traction. So I've been doing these seller chats for about 3 of the 4 years I've been on here, mostly just because we were such a small category when I first started selling, and we needed a way to kind of be able to, grow our category and help people get started and help, everybody kind of get on the same page with what's going on and how to do things and have a voice on the platform, because we were kind of a smaller category for a long time. I sell in sewing, quilting, fabric, crafts, linens, quilts, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of our passion and what we've done. So tell me what you sell. A lot of the audience is in here. So yeah. I just read your profile again. Y'all are hilarious. Well, I don't know about that. My husband's pretty hilarious. I think I'm actually pretty boring, but I guess I can be up there. All right. It depends on the day. Um, let's see. Firth says she's Sandy. Let's see. Firth. Oh, wait. Fir- fear the PMS. Okay, sorry. It took me a minute. Fear the PMS. I'm Sandy. I sell beaded pens, bookmarks, keychains, badge reels, wine stoppers, and paper roach clips. I hope to see you at the show. Can everyone please give Sandy at Fear the PMS? I'm not. You've got it right. Fear the PMS is right. It is. It is to be feared. Um, been there on the back end. Fear the back end too, because it's not fun. Not fun to get old. That's for sure. I was telling people recently, when you're young and you hear old people complaining about all their aches and pains or all the, things they're going through, that, what I remember being a kid and being like, oh my gosh, shut up. It's like, what? Nobody wants to hear all your aches and pains. And now I'm like, I feel sorry I ever said anything, because I get it. So I get it now, because it's real. It's real. All right. I guess maybe you don't have to complain as much, but I understand now why when old people get together, they start talking about their knee replacements and their hip replacements and their this and that and the other and their doctor appointments and their hospital visits. And you're just like, oh, I get it now. It's real. Yeah, menopause is a whole day's show. Exactly. Yeah, aging is not for sissies, for sure. Amy has it right. Not for sissies. All right. So, yeah, what does everyone need to talk about? What are your struggles? What do you need help with that I could maybe, guide you in the right direction? I have oh, Daisy, thank you so much for the raid. Daisy May Fabrics. Let's share Daisy May's profile. Your biggest struggle is bringing people into the room and shipping large items. Okay, so we'll address that. And on the shipping large items, I will just say don't don't ship large items on Whatnot. It's probably not worth it. If you're selling museum pieces that are worth lots of money and you're actually doing well, then the people should be willing to pay the shipping. Otherwise, large items just really aren't worth selling on here, and that's my opinion. But yeah, until they fix it and give us a better option for shipping large items, I just wouldn't. All right, so here is Daisy May Fabrics, who is Cindy. Thank you for the raid. And her profile says her name is Cindy. I'm the owner of Daisy May Fabrics. Creativity and craftsmanship meet to bring you a world of fabric wonders. Here on Whatnot, you will find mostly fabric for sale, some fabrics new, off bolt, other fabrics pre owned, sewing and quilting supplies, handmade gifts, sewn items, and much more. And she's a wife, mom, maker, designer, photographer, and customer service. And they have shows scheduled for the 21st, the 23rd, the 26th, the 30th. She's got shows scheduled out, so she's doing the right thing with that. So, can everyone please give Cindy of Daisy May Fabrics a follow and bookmark those upcoming shows? And thank you so much for the raid. You are so welcome. So Kinetic is asking shipping fabric. Are you asking me to tell how I'm doing it, or are you struggling with it? Um, be more specific. And then, okay, so how to get people in your shows. Do people really read the bio? I never do. I do sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. The heavier fabrics, honestly, most fabric sellers have stopped selling fleece, um, bigger, heavier pieces of fabric, bigger amounts of yardage, because then, it maxes out the shipping too quickly. Um, so you have to decide if you're going to do a show where you're selling heavier fabric and you want to sell it by the yard. I would do, you know, box shows where you fill it by the box and they pay per box. Because otherwise, you know, you're not going to be able to really give them, you're going to get frustrated and not be able, really want to do those kind of shows. So just be upfront and honest and say, I'm doing a 775 max box show. You're going to get a box full. Maybe you can let them hand pick the pieces they want, but then once their box is full, then that's their box. You run it, and then they have to pay shipping per box. And I mean, 775 for a box full of fabric is a really good deal. And that's kind of how you have to look at it, as that's still a really good deal. Because if you go on another platform and buy a huge piece of fabric that weighs 5 pounds, it's going to be more than that to get it shipped, right? So just look at it from that point of view and advertise it that way and sell it that way, and you're going to be fine. So I would say if you want to do those, just do a per box show where you're paying the separate shipping per box. And if they want more than one box, they're paying shipping, or more than one package. Because now that we're doing ground advantage, you're most likely going to put it in some kind of poly mailer. So yeah. All right. Let's see. We got a raid from Fun Flavors Box. Thank you so much for the raid. How did I miss that? Let's see. Oh, there they are. Fun Flavors Box. Let's show their profile too. Thank you so much for the raid. Let me get them pulled up here. So Fun Flavors Box sells snacks, freeze-dried candy, ice cream, crunch treats, and new drops featuring the Waga Street freeze-dried pet treats. Oh yeah, they're selling pet treats now too. So please give them a follow and bookmark their upcoming shows. Let's see what they've got going on tomorrow, 7:39 a.m. and the 20th, 7:28. So they're a morning show and they have all the freeze-dried stuff and the candy and the pet treats. Thank you so much for the raid. All right. That freeze-dried candy is dangerous because it's almost like good morning, lovely pintos in the house. It's almost like you could eat a ton and not even realize you're eating that much because it's so crunchy. It's like eating a bag of chips almost, right? That's good stuff. All right, so let's talk about getting people in the room. And then let's see, any advice on getting word out for new sellers in their first show? Honestly, I saw something of the other day that I was impressed with. I would say if you are going to start selling and you don't have an audience you can bring and you haven't really been here long, I would take some time to network. I think that's good advice now. I mean, you can start doing shows because I hate to say to delay. Hey, so happy crafting in the house. How are you today? I hate to say that you should delay it all, but with the way it's crowded now, I think getting out there and networking like crazy is going to give you a lot of traction. So, and what do I mean by network? I mean get out there and be in people's shows, make comments, if you have someone that's already a friend that's selling, offer to moderate. Um, just really network like crazy and get a bunch of bookmarks on your upcoming shows because that's going to do a lot of that's going to really help you when you first get started if you've been around a while and people know who you are, because it's hard to come on here as a nobody and start selling and nobody knows who you are. It's going to be tough. So really take some time to get out there and be in people's shows, buy some stuff. Like I said, offer to moderate, all that good stuff. All right, as far as getting people in your shows, there's some hard, fast rules about whatnot that just really makes sense. And one of them, and you're going to hear this word all the time, is consistency. It's a live auction platform. People find you because you're here. You're on a lot. You've got to be on a lot. And I know that might seem like a big ask, but think about it this way. If you have a full-time job, a 40-hour a week job, you're expected to be there that 40 hours and have that kind of production, right? And if you want to get to a point where you have a certain amount of following and a certain amount of business and you want it to be a full-time gig, you've got to put in the full-time hours and more on this type of platform to get it to that point. So yeah, it's very different starting out now than when we first started because when we first started, we were one of, 5 to 10 sellers in this category, period. Um, and so you could go on in well, and we really didn't even have our own category. It was just I think it was lumped under just arts and crafts or something in general, right? And so you could go on in that category, and at any given time, there was maybe 5 shows in the whole day, sometimes less, you know? And so we had a very captive audience if, for the few people that wanted it. Yeah, exactly. And maybe 14 viewers if we were lucky. So it's a whole different ball game now, and you've really got to put yourself out there. And the main thing is you've got to be seen. You've got to be seen not just by going live and having lots of shows, but being out there in other people's shows, networking, making friends, doing all those kind of things to get your name out there. Um, and then I just pinned the 5 F's for attracting buyers on your screen. This is one of those hard, fast things that you gotta do, and do it all the time to make it work. So the hard, fast rules are: have fun. Your shows have to be fun. If people come into your show, if you go look at your analytics, um, it will show you on there, especially now they've changed the screen on the web version. You can actually see how long people stay in a show. 5 seconds, 5 seconds. People come in, and if they don't like what you're showing or aren't enjoying what you're doing, they're out of there in 5 seconds, you guys. That's how long you have to capture someone's attention. That's hard. That's hard for anybody. You can be the most exciting comedian on the planet and still, not capture someone's attention. So, and I'm not saying that you have to be able to do that. I'm just saying that's the typical amount of time someone comes in and stays in your show before they leave. And it doesn't mean they won't come back, they might, but you've got to be having fun to keep people's attention and have them want to stay in your show. What are you going to do? Well, it's called, you've got to have the right stuff to show, which is on this 5F list. That's the third thing on there. You got to have the right kind of stuff people want to buy. So be realistic about what you're sourcing to sell. People got to want to have it. Hey, Jessica's Crafty Spot just rated. Thank you for the raid. Let me share your profile, and then we'll get back to the 5Fs. Jessica's Crafty Spot. And one of the ways you get found is doing this rating. So, you know, we don't have a huge audience in here, but 30 people just saw Jessica raid. And now everybody's like, okay, who's Jessica? Well, Jessica is a Louisiana Bayou girl, and she sells vintage lace, junk journal kits, fabric, and vintage finds. And she has lots of shows scheduled. Can everyone please follow her if you're not already and bookmark her upcoming shows to get some good junk journal stuff, lace, fabric, vintage vibe stuff. She is darling. All right. Thank you so much for the raid. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the 5Fs. All right. So fast pace, keep it going. What does that mean? Do you have to do 5 second sudden death? No. It just means that whatever your audience typically likes, and you'll start to learn who likes you and who wants to stick around. It's just got to have a constant flow so that that 5 seconds that people are going to leave if they don't want to be there, you've got something going on fast enough that they're going to stick around if they're interested. Not everybody's going to be interested, and that's okay because everybody has a different vibe. Everybody's looking for different things. And sometimes people are just doing the scroll. I mean, it's the same difference as like my husband sitting in front of the TV with the remote on YouTube. I don't recommend it. It sucks. Don't sit with my husband to watch TV. It's like bleep, bleep. And I'm like, can you just stay on something for even 5 seconds so I can see what they're talking about? So I mean, it's real. It's real. It's the same difference as the guy with the remote you know, never watches anything for longer than 5 seconds because they have to be interested enough to stick around and stay on there. So, having fun, going at a fast enough pace that people want to stick around. And then the third thing on there is you got to have the right stuff. And then after that, you have to provide good customer service. I'm referring to this document that's pinned on your screen. Okay, this little 5Fs thing. And then you've got to provide good customer service, fast shipping, and respond when people have an issue. And then frequency. Frequency is a huge part of this. I mean, it's probably, honestly, on this whole list, frequency is probably like number one or number two. Because that, you've got to be on here enough to be seen and found and be relevant. Because you leave even for a few days or a few weeks, and suddenly, everybody's watching somebody else because you weren't there. You got to be here. You got to be on. You got to be relevant. Okay. What is your advice for loaded shop versus random pulls? I think a mix of both is super important. And I've been preaching this for a couple of years. Um, and finally, people started doing it, which is that you've got to have both, because if they don't love what you have up for auction on your random pools, but they're interested and like you and want to stick around, they're going to look in your shop. And your shop's, if your shop has some nice stuff and you keep it fresh and you add new things regularly, you're going to sell stuff out of there. So, and you can even use your shop when, if people aren't loving what your random pulls are, switch to your shop and do flash sales, or just start showing stuff that's out of there and run auctions. You can run things as an auction, you can run things as a flash sale. So if you already have it listed, it can switch to that. And like I said, the marketplace is becoming more and more important on here as we bring in more and more new buyers to the platform, because one of the things that we've sucked at on this platform, honestly, and I mean, it kind of makes sense why we've sucked at it, because we were all so busy just going doing live auctions like crazy, because it's the best thing that's ever happened to online reselling. So we were all just like, go, 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 sell, sell, sell. But we neglected building a marketplace. And people coming in new don't know how whatnot works. They do the search bar, they search for something they want. And if they find nothing, a lot of them leave. They've statistically shown, whatnot has shown, that that happens, you know? So, yeah, you have to have some stuff in there for people that are just searching. Let's see. Phil Tripp says, I ran my show out of the bin Sunday night and people actually understood what was going on and it went well. Yes, I've had some shows out of the bin regularly recently, and they do phenomenal. So, you've got to have, but you got to take the time to get things listed and have good enough pictures and good enough descriptions that people are willing to buy it, even if you don't show it. Because otherwise, you're kind of missing the point. Um, because if you only list them with the idea that you're going to show them, then you're missing out on people who will actually buy it without you having to show it. So it needs to be good enough for both purposes. So if you're going to take the time to list things in your shop, list it well enough that it will sell even if you don't show it. And then when you are utilizing it as a way to show it, great. It's already there. It's got a good enough description, and people will buy it in and out of whether you're showing it or not. Um, so yeah. Yes, and you can use you can download. They have a way now that you can just download it from other platforms. So if you have your listings on another platform or you use Shopify, you can, just bring in your listings. It's not perfect. You still have to go in and, fix a few things, but you can do that. You also can scan UPC codes and bring in the title and the description. Again, they're not perfect. They are working on AI. Um, I had AI as a beta for a long time and they took it away, and it sucks because I liked it because you could just take pictures of items and then it would create the listing for you using AI like on other platforms. But they're still trying to perfect it. It's coming, you guys. I don't know when. It'll be here soon. It makes a big difference, but they took it away when they updated the app last time for those what are they called, templates. So templates is another new thing. I don't use them because they didn't create templates for fabric, really. But templates are great if you sell in a category that is more mainstream clothing. um Maybe, I don't know, some of the, I don't know about vintage because that usually that's one of a kind of stuff, but there are templates that you can use now. So it's on there. When you create a listing, you can create a template, and then the template just sits there, and you can then just fill in more specifics. And again, I'm not super good about how they work exactly because I haven't. They didn't really work for what I'm selling, but I've heard they really work good for clothing and some other stuff. How can you set a price like 350? Well, in auctions, it's just by the dollar, but you can set prices like that in your buy it now because you can put it on flash sale, a percentage off. So you put it in at one price, do the flash sale price at a certain percentage off, and then it will do, the increments instead of just an exact dollar amount. um, I have heard of people doing some way that you can, um, the way that you download it from a listing, it will do different pricing, but I haven't successfully been able to do that. So, yeah, yeah, flash sales will do the increments because you're doing a percentage off. So put in the price you want, and then work with the flash sale percentage offs or dollar offs. Dollar off is only going to do the dollar though. But work with the increments on the percentages to get to the price you want it to be. Yeah, because it's that same mentality, because if you put something in there at $7, say, and then you put it at like 15% off, then it's going to, have that at an increment in between dollars. And it's kind of that mindset of, oh, it's still $5. Well, actually, it's more than $5, and you're getting a little bit more than it, $5, right? Yeah, I've seen some people doing that somehow, Field Trip, and I saw a post about it, and I read it, and I was like, it was kind of one of those things that I read it, and I'm like, that's not worth my time. Because there were all these hoops they had to jump through to try and get it to the point that they wanted it, and I was just like, that's too much work to try and figure it out. So, if someone can figure that out and tell me how simple it is, maybe I would try it, but I'm kinda like, how is it any different? I mean, I guess you're trying to get, instead of starting something at $6, you're going to start it at 6.49, and it's still that mental, it's still $6 kind of thing, But I was like, all the hoops they had to jump through to get it at that price. I was like, no. Let's see. Aaron Sphere explained it to me, but I forgot. I think you have to enter the item and then go back in and change the price. Yeah, but there was even more to it than that because I think you actually have to like copy and paste it, or I don't know. I was like, I don't know if it's worth the mental gymnastics to try and get it in there at a certain price other than just you know, especially if you think about it this way, if you're running it as an auction, um, yeah, maybe that 50 cents makes a difference ultimately if you don't have enough bidders to bid it up and you want them to just pay that price, but then just put it in your in your shop and run it on flash sale at that price. And then you can do the same thing, because you can manipulate it in your shop that way. So just put it in your shop and run it as an auction or run it as a flash sale, and then you're still having that same effect. So I was kind of like, I don't know that it makes that big of a difference. I don't know. You know, to me, the more simple that you can just get it in there and run it, and I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. I want to start live. There are so many obstacles. Obstacles. I'm intimidated. Honestly, my advice for that is the obstacles are in your mind. You know, you just go live and you just start doing it, and yeah, get out of your own head and just start doing it, because that's how you learn, and that's how you get comfortable with it, and that's how it works, you know because if the more you overthink and trust me on this, I'm an overthinker, so I totally get what you're saying, but you got to just stop. You got to stop overthinking everything. It's really not that, you know just start doing it. Let's see. Front porch said, I discovered I was calculating my profit wrong. I was slotting for the 8% commission and 30-cent fee, but it's actually more like 25% of the sell price. 25% sounds high. It's usually more between 15 to 17. Um, but yeah, because the way that they calculate the credit card fees is based on the shipping combined, right? And the tax that they charge. And so that processing fee um, ends up being, higher. And then you've got that 30-cent fee and then your commissions. Yeah. So, and it's hard to calculate because the taxes are different in every, state and location, and you can't control that. You have no control over that. And then the shipping fee, especially now that we're doing Ground Advantage, could possibly be different depending on how much they buy, unless they hit that pound. So then it's pretty, 775. Let's see, we have Ground Advantage pricing for Whatnot. Are they coming to the conclusion to provide sellers access to the Ground Advantage packaging? That is one of the big questions of the year, right? We don't know. Um, from what I've read, no. Um, but it could possibly happen. So I think they're still trying. I mean, the way that they worded the upcoming changes is that they're exploring other options, so maybe come November, then I don't know. I mean, I think for most platforms, the cheapest shipping option is still the postal service, because FedEx and UPS and everything are still out there. I mean, their pricing is not great for, especially for smaller packages. Their business model is more for business, individual businesses. They don't want to deal with the mail for these bigger platforms sending hundreds of thousands of packages, smaller packages. They just, that's not their model. That's not their thing. And so, but they're exploring going another direction for the larger stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, I haven't really missed it. I mean, here's what I miss about flat rate. Flat rate made it easy. It was super easy. You just picked the package off the list, bought a bean. You didn't have to weigh anything. Super easy. That I miss that, about it. But, you know, honestly, I think fabric does better in poly mailers because it's not in boxes that are getting crunched and it's, a mess. So, I think that about it, but oh, my computer just Went down. I want my screen to stay live. It went to sleep. All right, there we go. Um, so yeah. So I'm doing, oh, I was going to show you on your, if you use a computer when you're doing live shows, the, see this little statistic right here? Let me center it here. Average watch time. We're doing really good. I'm keeping people's attention for 6 minutes versus 5 seconds. No, you don't need a computer to do shows. It's just that if you use a computer, you have a lot more tools at your disposal to see what's going on in your show. Although with this updated screen, my laptop, it limits how much of the chat you can see so bad that I'm kind of going nuts. I've always used a laptop. I use the phone to do the camera, obviously, but then I use a laptop. And we upgraded to what to Notbot to print the labels for now. Whatnot is the verbiage they used is that they have an intern working on a similar um, product that they would bring in-house. And their words were, it makes sense to bring that in-house and not have people have to pay for a separate, you know, app to do that. So they're bringing that in-house as soon as they have it figured out. So yeah, you can pop the chat out, but on my laptop, it doesn't work. I every time I try to pop it out, it does something else weird on the screen. So I haven't figured it out. I need to figure it out. So let me see what that did. Oh, okay. So it did it okay on here, but this is a PC. On my laptop, it's not working. So for some reason, I can't get it to pop the chat out. I have to try it again. But the other thing is if you're using Notbot, I think that's probably the problem. So, oh, it's double and triple printed. So the other day I was having problems getting it to work and I messaged them and they said I needed to download their new driver and then that fixed it. So message them for the new driver or just go out there and update it. Get the new driver, go to their website, get the new driver and read. Yeah, apparently when that happened, it totally blew up for a lot of people. So fortunately, it did that before I even started the show. So I messaged them and it fixed it. So there's a new driver. So if you haven't uploaded a new driver lately, do that. Um, oh, your printer didn't print any labels? Hmm. You couldn't get it working. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, but every time I've messaged them, oh, you're so welcome. Thank you, Violet Eyes. Um, I messaged them and they responded almost immediately. So they're pretty good about getting back to you. So message them and ask. Um, have you used it before, KCS, and that it was working before? Will they fix that chat window? Well, like she said, you can pull it out. So, like, see on here, I just popped it out, but this is my PC, not my laptop, and so the screen's a lot bigger. I'm I'm kind of thinking probably what I'm gonna do is get a bigger monitor because I'm going blind anyway, and it's not a bad idea for me to just get a bigger monitor. Um, that I can hook to my laptop and have it. 'Cause I've seen a lot of sellers who actually have like a stand and they put a bigger monitor on a stand at more at eye level so that they can monitor the chat better. I might have pop-ups disabled. I don't know. But like I said, I'm using running it through Notbot. And so I wonder if when you click that, when you're in not bought, if it's just not, yeah, it may have something to do with pop-ups. I don't know. It's so hard to fix things when you're not when you're live because you can't just like stop your show and say, okay, everybody, technical difficulties. I need to figure this out. Maybe I need to do a practice show and or a private show and figure that out. Let's see, there's a new feature. It no longer prints when you click on generate label. You must click on the printer icon. Oh, see, and I've never used generate label anyway, so I wouldn't have known about that. Second Creek says when we raided into a show last night, Notbot created a label for an item that was being sold in that show. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I have noticed when you raid that if that seller, if you stay live inside Notbot, so when I raid, I don't raid from Notbot. I raid from my other device, and then I close Notbot immediately because otherwise it does pretend like it's now in that show and that it's your show. So that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. So just, exit out of the Notbot screen on your device. But I mean, keep in mind, Notbot is an extension that you have agreed to sign into their, through their platform into Whatnot. And so they're trying to work together. And every time Whatnot does any kind of updates, it might mess up how Notbot works because they've got to keep on top of what updates Whatnot's doing, and that's why it'll be awesome if Whatnot gets that in-house so that it will do the same thing that Notbot's doing for us, only in-house works seamlessly with the platform. So fingers crossed for that coming soon. Um, all right, let's see. How do I know how much fabric can be shipped for $7.75? Well, 775 is up to 5 pounds, right? So that's 80 ounces. 5 pounds is 80 ounces. Notbot is a program that um, you can sign up for as a separate app that you can download, and it will print the labels for you. It will print little labels live as you sell items, so you can get a separate printer with stickers or use your thermal printer with a different size label, and it will print every time something sells, it prints a label, and then you can slap it on the item as it sells. Just saves you a ton of time on the back end. So 80 ounces. So if you sell yards, for example, a typical yard weighs between 4.5 to 7 ounces, depending on the brand of fabric, the heaviness of it. So, like art gallery or vintage fabrics tend to be on the lower weight. Um, a heavier cotton, like a Robert Kaufman, is going to be more like 6 ounces. So, if you divide that out, if you sell everything by the yard, if let's say you were selling everything by the yard, you take 80 ounces and divide it by, let's say, an average of 5.5, you're going to be able to sell, a person's going to be able to get 14 and a half yards for 775. Now, we probably all sell different sizes of pieces of fabric, right? So you just need to you need to know how much it weighs when you sell it so that if you're going to give them max shipping, you know, it um adds it up incrementally until it hits 5 pounds. And then you have to decide if you're going to offer ground advantage over 5 pounds, which is exponentially higher shipping. If you're going to do the buyer pays max 775, just my advice would be offer 775 for 5 pounds under ground advantage, and then 5 pounds and over do flat rate for now. Because then the most you're going to pay as the seller is the difference between the 775 and the flat rate, which is $5.24, right? Let's see. Other than reaching out through Whatnot and reporting the listing as counterfeit, how can we get someone to remove their copyright items? Um, Probably that's about all you can do. So if you've got someone they're selling a brand, you have someone like handmade using, is that what you're asking? So message me, but if it's kind of the same issues that go on the other platform, the handmade platform, it'll catch up to them. It's just that Whatnot's new enough and doesn't have enough handmade sellers yet. But the brands are going to start coming here and getting the starting to file Whatnot with copyright problems, just like they have everywhere else. It's just they just haven't come yet. So let's see. It is the way to go, much cheaper than paying ground above 5 pounds. Yes. Yeah. So if you're going to do a max shipping, absolutely choose the flat rate option for 5 and above. If you're going to make them pay for it, buyer pays all, that's cheaper for them too than paying the ground advantage. Ground advantage over 5 pounds is pretty expensive. It hits higher than $12.99 almost immediately. Do you run your show on the Notbot screen or just have it open in the background and run from Whatnot? You can do either. I've been doing it from Notbot just because I want to make sure it was working right. I might switch back just because it's hard. Um, you know, they're copying Tula. How are they copying Tula? Like you have their fabric manufacturer. Okay, so you have someone printing fabric that's copying Tula and trying to sell it as Tula. I guess I don't know what you mean. So be more specific. Because yeah, that's gonna get found out pretty quick and shut down if that's the case. Um, One way to expedite that would be to send a message to the fabric manufacturer. They'll come find them. Let's see. Do you suggest max shipping for new sellers? I did it once and paid out the wazoo. Yeah, if you're brand new and you're selling things that are all different weights, I would not do max shipping until you know what you're doing. Until you know or you're comfortable with how much people are going to buy and comfortable with how you're weighing things and listing things. Um, it's not a bad idea to wait until you're comfortable with all of that. Let's see. The brands have made it to the nail category. No more Gucci nails. Ah, there you go. See, yeah. I mean, it just takes time for the brands to get here, and they send out their bots looking for all the right terms, and yeah, they'll find them. Hey, Andy, welcome in. Can you do like other vendors where you pay a max for shipping up to 11 items on the max shipping? It resets and you pay another. Yes. If you want to do that, the only problem with that is you have to sell everything you sell at the same weight. So, you know, if what you sell and you sell jewelry, it looks like that probably works for you, because you can just put in there everything weighs 1 ounce and incrementally up to they can buy this many number of items and then it maxes out at this and then they pay for another package after that. So you just use a custom shipping profile where you set it for a number of items. How do you do that? So you use a custom shipping profile and you say that you're selling items at whatever ounces. So maybe you're selling everything at 4 ounces. And then that's the weight you put in there. And then you can put a max number of items and an incremental weight. And then once it hits that max number of items, then it flips to a new package. It starts over again. So it's going to charge them, you know, if you're doing the 5 pound limit, it would do max out at 5 and then start a new package if they keep buying more. So use that custom shipping profile. Custom shipping profiles right now are limited to a weight and a number of items. So you can't use a custom shipping profile to just simply max out by weight by multiple different items. So you can't use different listings with different weights and have them all going towards a max to limit it out. So it only really works if you're selling your items all at the same weight. So we could do it in fabric if you want to sell everything at the same weight and then just max it out. But the risk you run there is if you're actually selling items that aren't really close to that weight that you're using, you run the risk of having a lot of packages end up going over the 5 pounds, and then what are you going to do? So you have to be, very careful about how you set it up so that, it doesn't on the back end, you get toasted with a bunch of extra shipping fees because now that they're really scrutinizing the weight, you actually use your 5 adjustments really quickly if you have to change weight classes frequently. And then your 5 adjustments are gone, and then you're paying for all of those little changes. But you have to send it at the right weight, you guys, because you're going to get charged one way or the other. If you don't send it at the right weight, those carrier shipment adjustments are going to start hitting us, and you're going to be paying for them there. You might as well send it out accurately first so that you don't end up having a bunch of charges to your account on the back end. So, yeah, that's my question too. Are people actually making fake Tula and Alexander Henry fabrics? And who's doing it? Do we have some Chinese sellers in here printing um fabrics now? Have we arrived? That means you've arrived. When China starts copying everything you do, that's when you've arrived. It's called the the copying of everything, right? But yeah, if people are making fake fabric now, that's scary. I don't know why they would. I don't see how fabric honestly um is going to be all that profitable for them, especially if I mean the first time they sell it and someone gets it, they're going to be, yeah, you can do it with 3D imaging, but it's if it's not coming in with the true selvage and the true feel and the true everything, people are going to know, you know because you can tell because the images are blurred, because that was the problem they had on the handmade platform, is people were creating all these things, and then you had all these companies in China that would just take images of stuff and print it onto things and sell it. And yeah, yeah, if you get caught, it's a felony. But if you're in China, nobody cared. Nobody did anything. And that was what was frustrating on the handmade category, is they couldn't really do a whole lot about it because, it's all these people in other countries all over the place. And that's all on it. I'll be honest with you. One of the things that I loved about Whatnot is that the countries are kind of kept separate. Like, Canadians buy from Canadians, Australians buy from Australians for the most part. And we aren't inundated with, all of these trash sellers from other countries trying to sell garbage to everybody. But if it's starting to happen, then here we go. roller coaster ride. Here we go. Because that honestly ruined some other platforms because you couldn't hand make anything anymore because everybody else just copied it and then sold people crap. They would use your own, they would actually use your pictures, your listings, and then sell them a piece of garbage. And then people thought it was you because it was your pictures and your listings. Yeah. When I made clothing on the platforms, they would take our photos. Yep, exactly. Exactly. So it kind of ruined it because, and they didn't do a whole lot about it. They just let it happen and it ruined it because you couldn't, you couldn't even list anything and have it be a popular item. The minute it became a popular item, 50 other trash sellers copied it, copied everything from your listing and sold it. And it was garbage usually. And then when someone was mad about it and did some kind of Google image search, it would always come back to you, not them. So it was like, forget this. Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. That makes sense. So yeah, I'm just curious. Message me because I mean, if is someone actually copying fabric and trying to sell um fabric? I'm curious about that. So it was terrible because it was our children modeling. Oh, yeah, that's horrible, Dawn. Yeah, that's not cool at all. At all. Yeah, I fortunately did. I mostly on that platform was selling patterns, vintage clothing, vintage linens. And so I didn't have that problem because they were mostly one of a kind type things. It was hard for them to do that. Oh, it's the images of Tula fabric on items. Oh, interesting. Okay. So that's what they're doing is taking images of Tula pink fabric and then putting it onto other items. Yeah, and it's copyrighted images. They can't do that. Yeah. And you're going to have to be careful too about, handmade stuff. It's just like the other platform. You cannot hand make stuff out of certain fabrics that are licensed only for home use. I mean, usually the lawsuits, end user mean is loosely stated as the person who originally buys it. They get to decide. I don't think they win lawsuits, but they still come in and make you remove your listings. So don't try to sell handmade items that are made out of licensed print fabrics that are going to come after you, especially if you advertise it that way. So be careful with that because they're coming. They're coming for you and they will make you delist things. And then sometimes the platforms will actually shut your shop down if they feel like you infringe on that too much because they don't want to deal with the lawsuits. So yeah, be careful with that if you hand me. And I'm curious to see what happens with a lot of these upcyclers too, who are making like the sweatshirts and tops and stuff out of the graphic tees that have licensed prints on them. We'll see. I wouldn't think they could come after them. Um, but they will if they use the terms in their listing. So if they list something and it says on there, Looney Tunes, Daffy Duck or something on and it's got that image on it and that in the words, they're going to find it, right? Yeah, so Will Cat asks if I make, say, a Paw Patrol Christmas ornament out of fabric. I I'm not saying you're necessarily in the wrong, but you could be because technically those licensed prints, what do they say on the selvage? They say home use only. So if you buy fabric that says on the selvage, licensed for home use only, you're technically not supposed to make something out of it and sell it. So, yeah, because then you're advertising that licensed name as part of what it is. And they actually have gone into craft fairs. And believe it or not, in big cities, they'll go into craft fairs and shut booths down who are selling lots of licensed print merchandise. So you do have to be careful with that. So I would stay away from it personally. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Did we answer everybody's questions that actually had? Let me make sure I didn't miss. Um, oh, did I answer? I'm making sure I answered in the ones that were like how to do something, and I think I did. I think I did. But let me know if I missed. All right, and I honestly can't stay on too long today. My life is crazy right now. And then yesterday was who was in my show yesterday? I don't know. My brain is fried. In my mind, I was like, today is not the day that I get my granddaughter. So we start our show, and like 30 minutes into my show, my daughter-in-law shows up with the baby, and I'm like, today's not our day to watch the baby. And she's like, yeah, it is. And I'm like, oh, crap, I'm supposed to be babysitting. And so it derailed our show. And I mean, it was okay, but Bert took her, but she doesn't if she has to be here, she wants grandma. She's a mama grandma girl. And so she wasn't very happy that Bert took her in to get her, settled. And fortunately, she fell asleep for a little while, and we were able to stay on for a while. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, she's a darling little girl. We have so much fun watching her, but for some reason in my brain, it just wasn't our day. And it was our day. And now I'm like, so it's kind of threw my week off. So, how do I check public domain? Let's see. Let's see. How do I check public domain? I'm not sure what that question is. Um, well, it was Moana. That's her thing right now is Moana. And it was enough to get her asleep initially, but then after that it wasn't enough. Yeah, for sure. Because then she came in and she's like, "Where's my mom? Where's my dad?" She always asks, "Where's my mom?" I'm like, "She's at work." "Where's my dad?" "He's at work." And I have to explain it. And then, but then she wants grandma and she wants to go outside. The kid would live outside if I would let her. She loves to be outside. And so we have a trampoline and that has the big um, net around it, and we have a swing and a little slide that she plays on, and she wants to just live outside. So it's cute. And then right now it's hot, and I'm like, the last thing I want to do is go outside, but we have enough shade, so it's okay. So public domain image. Oh, public domain images. So yeah, you can just Google. You should be able to just Google and ask if, something is public domain. The problem with images is that so many people, when they started doing handmade, they would like create an image and then they would license it. And then they would try to go after everybody that made anything even remotely similar. It was so ridiculous. And so handmade people it was just like a constant struggle to have anything be a design that you could use because someone would come in and say, "Oh, well, it has this and this and this. So I have the copyright on that image, so you can't use that." It was just ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And I'm like, we need God to come in and copyright infringe on all of us because it was all his idea originally anyway. We're all just copying. nature. So God could just say, nope, can't do that, none of it. None of us have a single original idea. Just look at nature. It's already there. It exists already. So it got that ridiculous. That's how stupid it is. Anyway, so yeah, pretty funny. All right. So I better go, you guys. Let me know if that drives you nuts with quilt patterns. Yeah, they're all basically the same. So, I mean, how many versions of different triangles and squares can you have? A square is a square, right? So, yeah. Okay. Let's go. Let's go find someone to raid. And the word cotton is trademarked. Not surprised. I'm not surprised. In what way though? Because then, how can you even copyright the word cotton? I mean, come on. It's a commodity. It has been since probably the world was created. Cotton, I don't know. That's a good question. Was cotton a fabric plant from antiquity? I don't know. All right, let's go find someone to raid. Thanks for being here. Love you guys. Love spending time with all of you. And do me a solid and go bookmark my upcoming shows. And thank you. Thank you. All right, let's go see who is out there. Oh, the generic fiber itself is not trademarked. Okay, there you go. Well, let's go raid into Cheap Girl Fabrics. She's one of our friends here on the platform. And here we go. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.